I'd like to call to order the October 14th meeting of the Campbell County School Board. It's good to see so many smiling faces in here today. Hope we have a great meeting. I know we're going to have a good meeting, just based on who's here. So we'll start the meeting off with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. So if you're able, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Have a seat. Well, the best order of business is a presentation by the Campbell County Education Foundation. I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Stanley, and members of the Campbell County School Board. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm Rose Epperson, and I'm here to represent the Campbell County Educational Foundation. Other foundation board members include Susan Brandt, Dean Farmer, Linda Grubba, Vicki Maddox, Brandon Treadway, Kyle Andrews, Sam Vance, Amy Hale, and Clay Stanley. This group of volunteers work to provide financial assistance to Campbell County students who are pursuing post-secondary pursuits. Funding we have been so fortunate to obtain from generous individuals, corporations, and local foundations support dual enrollment students, as well as college and career readiness programs at all 4 Campbell County high schools. Our goals are straightforward: that every student who wants to take part in the CTE Academy has that opportunity, and that every student graduates from Campbell County high schools graduating on track with a definite plan of action. This foundation's support has continued to grow each year. We are fortunate to receive individual and corporate donations and significant grant support from local foundations. Once again, we are increasing our donation level, and we have tonight a check for $37,375. This amount, combined with a future gift in the spring, will provide funding to pay for all of this year's CTE Academy students' books, supplies, and materials. Also, I'm pleased to announce that CCEF's grand total of gifts now surpasses $200,000. We're thrilled to provide this support, and even more excited to see our student interest and participation in these programs grow. I also have the pleasure of introducing a Campbell County student who is living proof of the opportunities made available through the CTE program. Sage Fulcher is truly a trailblazer in HVAC, and I'd like to brag on her a little bit with a few words written by Ashley Wilson. Thank you. Sage is the dynamic 2024 graduate of Brookville High School, where she achieved an impressive 3.6 GPA while also excelling in the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC program at the Central Virginia Community College Career and Technical Education Academy through Campbell County Schools. Completing the program with a 3.75 college GPA, Sage earned her HVAC Career Studies certificate and gained 3 industry credentials through the National Center for Construction Education and Research, CORE, HVAC Level 1, and HVAC Level 2. This exceptional training has provided her with a competitive edge in the HVAC market. In April of 2024, just ahead of her high school graduation, Sage was hired by Woolridge Heating and Air. During her spring break, she underwent intensive training in their lab. Officially starting as a summer intern on June 3rd, she quickly distinguished herself as a valuable team member. Woolridge's management praised her dedication, stating she's a hard worker, and we had current lead HVAC installers asking for her on their crew over the summer season. By the end of her internship, Sage was offered a full-time position as an HVAC installer with company owner Dana Marr noting, "We are blessed to have such a good person as Sage with a passion for the HVAC trade." Reflecting on her time in the CTE Academy, Sage acknowledges the tremendous opportunity provided by Campbell County Public Schools. Being the only female in a large class boosted her confidence and solidified her passion for the field. Sage advises future students, not only is it a great opportunity, but it prepares you for the next step in your education. I would just say to take it seriously and be grateful. Grateful for the support she received, Sage recognizes that her experience at the CTE Academy was pivotal in shaping her career. "I know I wouldn't be where I am today without it. My time at the school was a wonderful experience and everyone being helpful and nice." She expresses her enthusiasm for working at Woolridge, emphasizing the respectful environment and the confidence her colleagues have shown in her. It's truly an incredible place to work. Sage is not just a talented HVAC installer, she's a role model for aspiring tradespeople, demonstrating that with dedication and hard work, anyone can succeed in their chosen field. Thank you, Sage.
I just wanted to say thank you for the program. It really was the start of my career and really helped me mature and prepare me. And I just want to say thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, Rose.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take a picture.
Great.
Inside or outside?
They don't roll real. We got them on it. Huh? Don't y'all leave, don't leave yet. Don't leave like that. No, don't leave. Susan. She can't hear.
Do it. Could be trouble.
I'm sitting here, I got stuff.
Thank you, Sage. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Rose. Well, even though they have left, Dr. Hale sent us all back in September a letter they produced, and it highlights three, what do y'all call them, lead-off hitters? And I'll say personally, there's no finer three women in the country, and put those three together to work on this program, it has to be a success. And they do it, have a good time, and it helps our students tremendously. So if you got this attachment or email from Dr. Hale and you didn't read it, pull it out and read it, because it's really, really good stuff about the three women and the rest of the team as well. So I don't know why they didn't want to stay here and hear that. I don't understand. I don't understand. And it's a good picture too, so. All right. Student achievement and accountability updates. Dr. Hale, Ms. Robinson. You got the right clicker now?
We believe so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm here tonight to share our 23-24 school year SOL test data and discuss preliminary changes to the accountability system in place for next year. So our test scores have improved, and we are continuing work to return to pre-pandemic levels. CCPS test score improvement is higher in all subject areas compared to the state. Last year, we discussed with you that chronic absenteeism was such a barrier, and even though it still was one of our biggest issues schools faced, it significantly improved in most of our schools, which naturally helps instruction and subsequent test scores. So first, we'll start with our reading SOL scores from last year. And you can see I still left on there 2018-19 because that was our last, what we call normal year of school that we had. And remember, there was no testing in 19-20. So you can see that English came in at 74% compared to the state at 73%, and that held steady from last year. And this year, as we've implemented the changes with the Virginia Literacy Act and including high-quality instructional materials, we continue to look for improvements in our data as one of our many positive outcomes from that legislation. There are no writing scores in this year's reported data, and I wanted to remind you, I mentioned that last year, that they moved to grade 8, the integrated reading and writing assessment. As they abbreviated, the IRW became part of the reading SOL test, and it included a nonfiction passage with comprehension questions, and its content was related to history or science. And then it includes a writing prompt where students respond and use the context from which they read to answer. But because that was the first year of that assessment, there was no aggregate data that was produced from it. Students received reports, families received reports, and it simply gave rubric scores for that particular writing assessment. So those reports were sent to families, of course. And then in high school, we administer the end-of-course writing performance assessment in grades 9 through 11. So each year, those students write and combine a portfolio, and then that portfolio is evaluated by a local panel for verified credit. And so because of that, none of that data is included in accreditation. So we simply have our reading scores produced for you this year. Okay, on to math. Our math data came in at 73% compared to the state at 71%, and slightly improved from last year at 72%, and of course above minimum proficiency of 70%. Curriculum and standards are also changing in math, and we anticipate continued progress. This summer, we conducted curriculum work and professional development at the beginning of the school year to prepare for these math and English changes. And so we hope to see a return to pre-pandemic levels and beyond in our data in the 24-25 school year. We are especially proud of our work in science this year. And you can see last year we were below the state average and below proficiency at 65%. And this year, with much focus and improved resources, we came in at 73%, much above the state at 68%. So that was one of our largest celebrations of the year. Our history scores continue to improve from last year at 70 to this year at 72, and again, well above the state average of 65%. This is our subject with the most discrepancy between our county performance versus the state. So that is all good news in our pass rates. Our instructional areas of focus for this school year continue to be grade 3 reading, science, and middle school math and reading. At this time, Dr. Hale is going to speak to chronic absenteeism and graduation rates.
So you can see here a comparison between the last school year, 23-24, and then 22-23, and you will see improvement at all of our schools. Some schools had more improvement than others, and just a reminder, we want to have a chronic absentee rate no more than that 15%. So that is the target that we expect. We do still have some work to be done, though. So even though there is improvement, in particular, there is work to be done in the Brooke Neal William Campbell area, as well as Alta Vista Combined. However, Alta Vista Combined did have significant decrease for that school in the rates of chronic absenteeism. We also want to highlight another celebration, our on-time graduation rates. So these are for last school year. Our division came in at over 96% but you will also see that all of our schools had very high percentages for graduation rates, with the highest being at Rustburg High School at 97.6. But this is what's really a huge celebration as we were continuing to look at how other divisions did. Campbell County had the highest out of the 5 localities in our area, and this is also including Botetourt, Roanoke County, in addition to some of our local neighbors like Lynchburg City. This is a lot of dedicated work from our teachers, all of our staff and administration, to really make sure that our students are meeting graduation requirements. I'm also pleased to share with you that all of our schools are fully accredited going into 24-25. So we are very pleased with the hard work of everyone to get to that point. I also wanted to include the link to the school quality profiles. There's a lot of information there. You can look at the division with schools, but that is accurate to this point with the updated data from last school year. And now we'll be switching to talk a little bit about this school year because we will be under a new framework called the School Performance and Support Framework. And so I will have Ms. Robertson share a little bit more about what we know at this point.
Right, as you may be aware, there's been much discussion about Virginia's reform of the accountability system. The Virginia Board of Education has worked to overhaul the framework to help it be clear and transparent, better reflecting academic performance in all of our schools. The School Performance and Support Framework has been released, and we anticipate our data being reported under this new framework in the 25-26 school year. The framework will report each school in one of the 4 performance categories: distinguished, on track, off track, and needs intensive support. As you can see, it's a 100-point scale, and those are the 4 categories based on the total number of points that will be calculated. Each framework is weighted differently, and I'm going to show you the similarities and differences of those components. So elementary and middle I have shown on the same screen because they are so similar. All 3 levels have a mastery component, as you see there, but you'll notice the weightings are different. But mastery includes pass rates, and this is what we typically see when we have previously seen federal pass rates, or you'll hear it called almost raw pass rates, because in the past we've seen a lot of combined rates where growth is automatically lumped in. So these will be reported in reading, math, and science, and there's a 4th area there, progress of English language proficiency. This is the assessment that our EL students take, Access for ELs, each spring, and that is included. It also includes our alternate assessments, the VAP assessment. Then you'll see there's the growth column there, and it is going to use reading and math expected growth. They're still working through the details of calculating this, but one good change is that growth will also be counted for students who are proficient and even advanced, and that is a real change. It used to be that, we expected students to be proficient, and gosh, if they're not, then they can show growth and hopefully still count for us. And so this is a real benefit that we really want to see all of our students grow, not only achieve, but also grow. So that's really exciting news, I think. The 3rd area is readiness, and in year 1, chronic absenteeism for elementary will be the only component that counts in readiness. And you'll see also chronic absenteeism in middle school. And then in year 1, there's advanced coursework, and what they mean by that for year 1 will be in math, and they're including Algebra 1 in that. We're still a little unsure as to how they will calculate that information. You'll see in both areas there's a performance task listed. We have no additional details about the performance task at this time, so we expect that to come along in year 2 or beyond. When you move to the high school framework, you'll see there is no longer growth included, and that's been replaced by a component called readiness. Mastery is exactly the same, it's just weighted differently as the other 2 levels. And I'll skip down to graduation for a moment. In this framework, they are using graduation as FGI, the Federal Graduation Index. We didn't talk about that tonight. It's often the fact that we use what Amy presented as OGR or GCI, which is part of accreditation. And they're all reported and they're all shared, but they're all calculated differently. FGI does not include additional years of graduation or even an applied studies diploma. So that number we expect to be a little bit lower because even currently with our higher rates, the FGI is always reported a bit lower. However, you'll see there in readiness There is an opportunity for schools to get credit for a 6-year extended graduation rate to include applied studies. So in that component, they will get credit. So chronic absenteeism is found there, that 6-year extended rate. And then there's a third component, Ready for Life 3E framework. And the 3 E's in this stand for employment, enrollment, and enlistment. So if you've heard about the CCCRI index that we've talked a bit about over the years and is in our current accreditation model, the Career College Civic Readiness Index, I joked with the staff and said, this is like CCCRI 2.0. So they're revamping, they're using a lot of the same components. So in employment, they'll talk about credentials that can be earned through our high school students, as we've heard a lot about just now with our previous presentation. Enrollment, dual enrollment, AP, and enlistment may even include testing for military access. So that's to come. That's an example of an area that the state is still working to provide additional details. So truly at this time, the state has approved this framework, and they are working out a lot of what I consider the business rules, how we actually calculate what this looks like. We have schools that are combined. They're not just middle or high, and so we don't know yet how those will be calculated. As we get additional updates, I will most certainly provide them to you about this new accountability system and school performance and support framework. And as stated in the news release back in August by the Virginia Department of Education, the phrase accreditation status will now be reserved for operational compliance. They will discuss that using only, for instance, length of school year, length of school day. So we'll strictly be discussing it in a sense of accountability with school performance. And I believe their goal truly is to create one track, so that the way that Virginia presents its state plan for ESSA to the federal government, we're much aligned with those same standards. May I answer any questions for you at this time?
So for the SOL testing, I noticed prior to 2019, we were kind of around the 82% level. Years before that, was that kind of the norm, around 80, 82%? Was that pretty consistent in that range?
That was, yes, sir, and maybe in the mid-70s, but higher than we have been. That's why we continue to hope to reach for pre-pandemic levels, as we say.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any time frame that, I mean, we're looking like 5 years, 3 years to, because right now a lot of them are around 73, 74%. So that's kind of a substantial jump to get back up to 82, 83%. So I don't know if there's any goal of being somewhere in 5 years, or if that's...
I would say we strive for 100% because we
Sure.
want all students. But the other thing to keep in mind this school year is we will have new tested standards in English and math. So these will be completely different SOL assessments that we'll have. So that's another factor to keep in mind as we're moving forward. We did know recovery was going to be a process, but then also we do have these added changing standards, so it's not going to be comparing apples to apples for there. But we have been spending a lot of time, as you've heard, working on that. So we hope that we continue to move forward and always grow. Our aim is always 100, but understanding that recovery does take time as we move through this.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be critical,
No.
just for the record, but, I do see minor improvement from year to year, or modest improvement, I guess you
Absolutely.
would say, but, to get back up to in the 80s to the 100 range, it's,
We would love to do that as quickly as possible.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
As Dr. Hale mentioned, in addition to the new test, there will also be new cut scores in reading and math, and that's been a big discussion as well at the state level. So we are just wondering about what the data will look like also, because none of that has been discussed. They'll be setting cut scores, and they won't be released until February. So we're playing a game we're waiting on some of the rules for.
So we've got new standards, and then we're going to have new cut scores, and then we're going to have a new model that we're figuring out how everything fits together. And then I guess at the end of the day, the matrix will tell us if our schools fall into the distinguished category, on track, off track, or I forget the last category.
Needs intensive support.
Intensive assist, yeah, intensive improvement. So
That's why you
Yeah.
forgot that one.
yeah, we won't have to buy that. So we're really kind of, looking at this and trying to figure out what it's going to look like, but until we have all the pieces from the state, it's hard for us to project exactly what it's gonna be.
And teachers need grace as we are,
This whole new curriculum that's coming out.
especially our elementary school teachers, they need
So,
some grace.
yeah, so new standards, new cut scores, new resources. That was the third thing, yeah.
I have a couple of questions and comments. And you answered most of it when you answered my concern about being sort of hung up on that 74%. Like, it'd be nice to see a 1 or 2% per year increase. And now everything's changing, but I would still like to see year to year at least going up 1 or 2%, so we see a track record inclining. The writing assessment that you were alluding to, how, even though it's not, we didn't have a chart and it's not something that's reported, how are we doing?
Are you referencing the high school?
Yeah.
Yes, great question. So students have done very well, and I don't know exactly the pass rate, if you will, but when students have to have that for graduation for verified credit, so if they do not perform well on the portfolio, then they are taking Work Keys business writing as a substitute test. So we're ensuring that all of our students get through so that they receive that diploma on one path or another. We've even had some transfer students that don't perform in the portfolio. They'll take the substitute test. The state has recognized a substitute test in years past, and it's factored into the English scores. So I would say 100% is
So I guess
just
in
about.
future, when you're giving us these updates, you're showing us the ones that have to be reported, but we also have these sort of assessments that's sort of a gray area, right? But as a board member, I'd like to know where we are with those also.
All right,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then, good job on the science. I'm happy about that. Absenteeism is going to be a 5% towards our accreditation. What is it now?
Well, it's really a school quality indicator, so it's not necessarily compared in the same way at all. It's one of the 6 indicators in elementary and 9 in the combined schools.
It's a
So,
standalone.
yes,
But it still impacts our accreditation.
correct.
So is this
Yes,
going to
sir.
be, is this change going to be better or harder?
Yeah.
I-
We really honestly don't know that until
Okay.
we see. The
All right.
state is going to take our current data at some point from last school year and put it in this framework, which will help us to have a better view of what this will look like. But we don't anticipate having that till maybe January. So there is a delay. So that is something we will have to see, since it's been a standalone item on its own. Now it's averaged in, right? It's a
Okay.
percentage of points that you get. So we will have to see how that actually looks once we move. It's still important. Our principals are working hard on it,
Sure.
obviously, but it is something that we don't know exactly what that would look like.
Okay. And then my final comment or question is what's your gut feeling? Is this going to be a better evaluation of how we're doing?
I honestly believe it's a more fair representation of our schools because of the index categories that they use. I think before, some of our data is masked because of the combined rate, which includes growth. And growth will still be included in grades 4 through 8, but because it will be a separate component, you will have a better chance of seeing the data in those pieces. I think it's still very complex. They've done a nice job trying to make it more transparent, but there's still a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be a fair version.
Okay, good. That's all for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Interesting.
Dr. Wilson is going to talk to us about handling with care.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman Jones and board members. I want to speak to you tonight a little bit about a partnership we have with local law enforcement and public safety in Campbell County, a new initiative called Handle with Care. Handle with Care is a trauma-informed program, and pretty simple in concept, but pretty impactful on the backside. So the basics of it, if a law enforcement or public safety official shows up to an event and there is a student of school age at that location, that student's name, age, and just the words "handle with care" are reported to the school. And so when we get that information, it just allows our school administration and counselors to support that student the next day by showing whatever level of grace or support is appropriate. It's not an inquiry. We don't go question kids. We don't dig into it. We just kind of know if they're coming to school after they had a traumatic event at their home that night, that if they're a little sleepy, we're going to give them some grace. If they didn't have their homework, we're going to provide them a little extra time. And if they ask to speak to somebody, we provide that appropriate level of support. And so our local law enforcement agency, sheriff's office, local PD, and our public safety have signed on to partner with us in this effort. And as of Monday of last week, we had a training from the Department of Criminal Justice for implementation. It's not something that we've implemented just yet, as we are getting training resources to do a train-the-trainer model for our school staff, so everybody knows how to respond appropriately when we get these notifications from law enforcement or public safety. We really feel as if, if a kid has a bad night at home, for whatever reason that might be, we can be the most supportive we can when they walk through the door the next day. I'll take any questions you all may have about what that looks like.
So has that been completely lacking up until to this point, if there is some traumatic event?
So I think we have our relationships that are current in the school. So if an SRO is aware, I think they do make administrators aware. This just formalizes the process.
Yeah.
So when any public service shows up to an incident where there's a school-age child, now we have a formal process where they notify us universally. And even outside the scope, DCJS is working on an application where if there are kids even outside of our county, there's an app that law enforcement could use, and people who have partnered with this initiative could be notified even if that incident occurred with a student that's in the city of Lynchburg or Amherst County or somewhere abroad. And so then we could still get notification. So it really is just expanding that level of support for our students, no matter where they are, and in a positive way, kind of supporting them when they come back to school the next day.
I just want to say, I think this sounds great.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that look like in the school day? Like, is it a guidance counselor? Is it one person that's notified? Is it
Yeah.
all of the teachers that are notified? Is it just administration? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it would depend on the student, right? So it's going to be anybody that has that educational interest in the child. So it'll come to a central office team, right? Myself and Dr. Hale, Dr. Stanley, and then we'll disseminate that information to head principals or counselors. And then from there, principals will determine, like at an elementary kind of grade level, maybe it's just that one teacher. If it's a high school student, it may be all their teachers, but they're still going to get that message that is simply John Smith, handle with care, right? And so then it just depends on the student and how their day-to-day looks, but it could be one or two people, it could be as many as 4 or 5 people, depending on the kind of team of people that need to support that kid.
Thank you.
I think you answered that question. It was the confidentiality, right? Like, we keep
Right.
the confidentiality. It's just a handle with care.
Correct, it's just that phrase.
That label.
And so part of our training is kind of teaching our folks what that phrase means and how we address that appropriately and give kids grace when they're going through those difficult times.
Good.
Sounds awesome.
Good. Any more questions? Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Tracy, has anybody asked her? No. The next item is approval of the September the 9th meeting minutes.
Move that we approve.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Phillips, second by Ms. Tanner, that we approve the September 9th minutes. Any comments or questions? If none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Payment of the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed those bills, and Ms. McClanahan's going to address a couple of questions I had, but other than that, I move to approve payment of the bills.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Phillips, that we pay the bills. Anybody got any more questions? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Give a second.
Donations, Michelle.
Tonight you have 17 donations for approval. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Parker, seconded by Mr. Maddox, that we approve the generous donations. Anybody got any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Request for supplemental appropriations, Michelle.
Tonight you have 15 appropriations for approval. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Phillips, that we approve the supplemental appropriations requests. Anybody got any questions? If none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consideration of non-resident tuition. Michelle?
Tonight you have a list of residents for approval. Unless you have any questions, I would ask that you approve those.
Motion to approve? Second.
Which one of you ladies said that?
Me.
Motion by Ms. Parker, seconded by Ms. Vaughn, that we approve the consideration of non-resident tuition. Anybody got any questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Michelle, you just got the whole list tonight, don't you?
It's my month.
School audit fund activity, school activity audit fund.
Tonight you had presented the annual audit of the school activity funds. Unless you have any questions, or if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask that you approve the report.
Did the principals get reports from their school?
Yes, they get an
So
individual
they know
report.
what's on it? Okay, thank you.
So all those, the infractions that showed up, although I assume they're sort of minor, do they get addressed and do they do follow-ups? So hopefully they don't repeat those? And-
Yes, we send them a report, and they have to send back a corrective plan of
Oh,
action.
great. Okay. Was this report exceptional? I can't really remember year to year.
There were more on the report this time with no findings, so that's always improvement.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maddox, seconded by Ms. Tanner, that we approve the school activity fund audit. Anybody got any more questions? If none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Hunley, personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The personnel report is much shorter this month, which is a good thing. We have had a couple of teacher resignations, so we're working to fill those. That's nothing abnormal, though. That usually happens during the fall. We're in good shape with our classified staff. Unfortunately, I did speak to Dr. Ranella. We're in the same situation with bus drivers. We have that 5 full-time and 4 part-time positions open. A lot of that we discussed last time was medical leave and things like that too, that he's working through. So unless you have any other questions, I'd ask that you approve it as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Vaughn, seconded by Mr. Phillips, that we approve the personnel report. Anybody got any questions?
The bus driver situation, I mean, how are we addressing that shortage month to month?
So we just had a discussion, well, it's been 2 weeks, but last week started several of us in our office. So Dr. Ranella, Kristen Clay on his staff, Katie Malbeck, Lisa Kazee, and myself are brainstorming ideas to start addressing that. We've done career fairs in the past, separate for bus drivers. We're going to look at doing one in each of our feeder areas so that we're not asking people to drive. And then we've got some other ideas that we need to sit down and discuss as well.
But right now, your current drivers are just adding route, but on the back end of the
Yes, sir.
routes to cover.
Dr. Ranella works hard to not close routes. That's the main goal, because when that happens, obviously, that's disruptive to a lot of people. So we have drivers doubling up. He's got staff in his office that drive buses, so yes. It's a lot of doubling up.
Can I say at the beginning of the school year, we were in a pretty good place. We had all of our routes covered and felt good, but then as the school year has gone along, we've had some people get sick. As you all can see, we've had several, unfortunately, we've had some accidents, we've had some injuries, and we've had some resignations. So filling those positions becomes a challenge. And then anytime somebody gets sick and they can't do their route, we're just not deep enough to be able to cover that with a sub. So we're either doubling up the routes, which causes kids to get home later or get picked up later, or in worst case scenario, we're having to cancel a route. And obviously, nobody wants to do that.
Last resort.
Correct.
And we're shorter subs than we have been in the past, too. We've usually had more of a bank of sub drivers, but we're short there as well.
So I think this is a conversation that is going to need to be had by the board, and I think it's going to involve compensation. So I'll leave that at that, but I think we're going to have to talk about that. And I think Dr. Ranella might have some input on that too.
Some incentive.
Job fairs are
That's-
only
That's
going to get
correct.
us so far.
And that's some of the-
People have to want to drive a bus and be compensated for it, so.
Yes, sir.
I think that's going to have to be a discussion for board and budget.
And we've talked about revisiting our, the bonuses and stipends that we give, retention bonuses, referral bonuses, and things like that. So it's a list of things for us to discuss.
Yeah, it's impacting our schools down in Brook Neal. So, kid down in Brook Neal, if they miss the bus, they don't get to school. And I don't like that at all.
Have any localities privatized their bus service?
Roanoke.
How'd that work out? I mean, I didn't want to jump in there too
I don't
far.
think it
'cause
went
might-
too well.
I don't
Huh?
really know.
I don't think it went too well.
Yeah, I don't think it did either. Yeah, but I don't know. That's something that Dr. Ranella could explore and
Yeah.
give us
So-
input on.
So Roanoke did try to privatize it. Is that the right word?
Yeah, correct.
That's right, where you just don't do it.
Contracted out.
I mean, because it seems like we're kind of like just treading water, or, you know, either getting treading water or getting out into more deep water. I mean, it's,
It seems like we take a step forward, but then two back.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
why,
can speak to trash truck drivers and dump truck drivers, and they're all shorthanded too, so it's all the
Anybody with
CDL, it's not,
CDL.
yeah.
But
I mean, and they're hanging on to employees that aren't calling in and showing up because they don't have any choice.
yeah.
And so then the other folks are disgruntled. It's just, you know, a huge shortage of CDL drivers out there.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Anybody got any more questions?
I'm glad you brought up.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. Dr. Wilson, release from compulsory attendance.
Tonight, we have one request for release for compulsory attendance, given the circumstances surrounding. If you all don't have any questions, we recommend that you approve the release of compulsory attendance for this student.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Tanner, seconded by Ms. Vaughn.
I have a
Dr.
question.
Moore, go ahead.
I completely understand the circumstances. Is there any follow-up? Do we do any follow-up to see if he does enroll in that compulsory attendance law? Do we do any follow-up on this? Or do we just release them from coming to Campbell County Public Schools?
So we release them so they can enroll in the other program. I'll be sure that we check and see how that enrollment, we'll follow up.
Yeah, I was just curious about, because it's easy to say, I'll enroll, but then not. but,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Because I want the guy to at least have the opportunity to get a GED. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's the only question I had about that.
Any more questions? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Dr. Hale, policy revisions.
So good evening, Chairman, members of the board. We have quite a few less policies tonight, and some of them are quite minor, but there is one that I really did want to talk about for our first reading. The ones that are just grammatical or capitalization changes, very minor, but we are required to bring them, and so I wanted to share those with you. Again, very limited. It changes nothing of the substance, but we did want to be up to date with those policies. I did want to draw your attention to JFCR. This is where our cell phone policy is. So you actually have to flip because this actually covers all of our kind of student regulations, but this talks about cell phones and other portable communication devices. Just a reminder of the timeline. In July, we did receive the executive order. Governor Youngkin put out that he wanted to work towards cell phone-free education. There was draft guidance. There was lots of hearing sessions that took place. And then the final guidance was recently released. And based on the board meeting last time, there was direction to revisit this. So I do want to talk to you about what's in green and also to kind of share a little bit of how we came to this process. We did have a committee that looked at this, including a principal as well as our senior staff, but really tried to follow the main guidelines within Governor Youngkin's policy as well as the guidance that was released. So we do recognize that schools need to have a learning environment free from unnecessary distraction and disruption that is conducive to learning. And it talks about establishing what that is, but also the emphasis on critical thinking, effective communication, citizenship, creativity, and collaboration. In the policy, it gives clear guidelines of definitions. What do these definitions entail? For instructional time, we are looking at any structured or unstructured learning experiences that occur from when the first bell rings at the start of the school day until the dismissal bell at the end of the academic school day. Elementary and middle school instructional time begins with arrival on school campus. A personal electronic communication device means any personal device capable of connecting to a smartphone, the internet, cell phone, Wi-Fi, or directly connects to another similar device. It can include wearable technologies, and it also can incorporate any future personal. We have no idea what technology might hold. So it does include that. And for storage, we recognize that storage is different in our buildings. So storage, some have lockers, some don't have enough for all of their students. So storage means that it's off and out of sight. And that storage options include, but aren't limited to, the student's backpack, student's locker, in a locked pouch, or in a designated place in the classroom. Recognizing what storage looks like in our buildings that would be practical. Policy has been, it is not allowed during instructional time. That's not a change. The green is if cell phones or personal electronic communication devices are brought to school, they need to be stored and turned off during instructional time. It also goes on to make it a little bit more clear about when students are allowed. Students are allowed at after-hours athletic events, extracurriculars, while using our buses. In addition, it also establishes that only high school students may responsibly use their personal communication devices before and after school. Prohibited contact really needs to be clear. So that was one piece to make clear what is allowed. Not allowed to photograph, videotape others or employees, not teasing and bullying. October is Bullying Awareness Month. Unity Day is coming up on Wednesday, and we do know that this is a very real concern that has been shared by students and families. It can't be used for violent or unlawful acts. Creating and sharing a video that causes the disturbance, creating, possessing, distributing images where anything that is considered sexual acts inappropriate, and academic dishonesty and cheating is prohibited. And the other changes really try to address the exceptions, because that was one of the things that was new in the updated guidance, really based on feedback from families and students across the state. There are allowable exceptions. We know that this is needed for some of our students who have disabilities, who might have a 504 plan, IEP, also limited English proficiency. That is an important translation service, and or individuals' healthcare plans. All healthcare plans that do include this do need to be approved by the principal or designee. They do this already, but this would need to be incorporated. And then during instructional time, the change is that students use tools and platforms that we have to communicate needs. That can be email, or also we still have the school's front office that is available, so clearly outlining what is acceptable. Parents, we encourage to use school-based communication tools and channels to communicate during instructional time, such as email or a phone call to the school's front office. And also really addressing emergency communications. That has been a major concern that has been shared. It's that there are crisis and contingency plans that are available. We regularly go through written procedures with our staff and also provide regular communication throughout using our division communication tools and platforms. We typically use School Messenger to get information out in a timely manner. If we ever have new technology, we will use that as well to address that. And then also that family-based emergencies should be communicated directly with the front office. We will treat them with care and urgency to ensure that students have the information and the support they need. So this incorporates a lot of what is in the guidance and also the concerns that were shared. And one of the statistics that they did share in the most recent updated guidance was that 69% of Virginia parents of school-aged children from the George Mason poll support a cell phone-free education, which would include breaks and lunchtime. So that was one information that they did share. And of course, really addressing medical needs is important. The research that it is a huge distraction with notifications minimally of 200 a day for most individuals, and really addressing that we have emergency procedures in place. So this is a first reading. None of these are action items for you this evening, but I will be happy to address any questions that you might have about this or any of the other first readings.
So they can use their cell phone on the bus?
They've been able to.
Can they use it, the CTE kids that are going from school to the CTE?
Correct. They will be allowed to use it.
So that's the only time during the day that some kids will get to use it?
Correct. Great question.
Normally, when we adopt the policy, it's immediate. Are we gonna give any grace period?
So this would.
We approve it next meeting, will they have a grace period before we start?
We are expected to have this in place by January, and so we want to be very thoughtful about how we implement this in our schools. Typically, like you say, we don't implement new things during the school year. So we really want to make sure that we are being thoughtful with our communication, that students, parents, families, our teachers, our staff feel comfortable and understand the why of why this is happening, but also support them through that. And so the adoption for the second reading would be with the, if this proceeds next month, that the adoption would actually be implemented beginning in January after winter break. And that would be in compliance with the governor's executive order, but we would also give our schools time to really make sure that we're prepared and able to make that transition as smoothly as possible.
Sounds good, thank you.
So do we really need a second reading on this one?
Yes.
Just required.
Okay. Okay.
Now, if you had any other questions or revisions, then that would change the process a bit.
Any more questions? All right, second readings.
Okay, it's just one policy for second reading. This is regarding student absences and excuses. So this policy hadn't been updated since 2013. This was brought last month, but we really want to be in line with the Code of Virginia and also make sure we're following best practices for student achievement. This allows students to make up work while they're suspended and also documenting these as excused absences. Again, this has been in practice in our division, but this also will update that policy to then be in line.
Now, if they don't make up their work while they're suspended, are they considered absent?
They're still considered, so they will have the opportunity. If they don't do it, then that is on them. But we can't, it's still considered an excused absence. They are entitled to receive their work, but they just will suffer the consequences of not doing their work from a grade perspective. But hopefully they'll make their work up.
Any more questions? Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maddox, seconded by Dr. Miller, that we approve the policy revisions. Anybody got any more questions? No more questions. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Stanley, update us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing I want to do is acknowledge that the rise in, I guess, social media and just general threats that we've been experiencing, not only in Campbell County, unfortunately, but statewide, nationwide. And I want to thank all of our administrators and teachers, staff, parents, everybody. You know, whenever you have something like that, it's designed to instill fear and create disruption. And we take them all very seriously. And I would just ask that parents continue to talk to your children about the seriousness of making such a threat, and encourage any student that if you ever see a threat, to make sure that you let an administrator or teacher know as soon as possible, because it's important that we deal with it as soon as possible. So this week we had 2 threats. One I was notified about before 6 a.m., that a student had made a threat on social media, and that the sheriff's office had already been to the door of that individual before 6:30 in the morning. And then the second one was at Brookville Middle School, and I just want to, say good job to our staff, to the sheriff's office. Thank you for your support. We got over to Brookville Middle, we evacuated that building, and the sheriff's office swept it, went through it, made sure that it was a safe environment for us to be in, and then we got back in the building. And that takes a lot of effort, that takes a lot of coordination, a lot of manpower, and I just want to thank everybody involved. It's a big deal. I also want to bring your attention to the fact that we just recently did an RFP when it comes to our health insurance. Health insurance, as you know, continues to increase. So this year we did an RFP with the hopes of finding something different or giving other companies an opportunity to meet our needs. At the end of the day, Anthem was awarded the contract, so we'll continue to stay with them. Unfortunately, though, rates continue to go up, and though we budgeted for a 10% increase this year, we're going to budget another 10% for the employer, and I'm sorry to say that we're going to have to pass along a 10% increase to our employees. That's the first time that we've done that since 2017. Obviously, the goal is to provide as much salary and income for our employees as possible. However, the cost of insurance continues to go up, and we have to pay for it. We're a self-funded program, so that means everything that we either put into the plan ourselves as the employer or that we raise from our employees goes to cover all of the expenses that are incurred when people go to the doctor and people have medical costs. So it's important to stay healthy. It's important for everybody to again, be sure they're doing things that they can do to stay as healthy as possible, because, we fund this program ourselves. So I'm sorry to say that we have a 10% increase, but we'll start that open enrollment period here towards the end of the month. On a positive note, on November 4th, we've got a teacher work day. And on that teacher work day, we're having something new. We're having something that we're going to call Career Connections. And I've given each of you a flyer that talks about what that is. This is Ashley Wilson, her brainchild. She came up with an innovative way to help us bridge our connections with our local workforce. Something that we talk about, it's important, and we want to make sure that we're providing pathways for kids into our local workforce. And to do that, we need to have a great relationship with them, and our teachers need to understand what those pathways look like. So on the 4th, we've got approximately 60 employers coming in, and we're going to bring over our high school teachers to begin with to go around and meet these employers and have conversations about what our employers are looking for in new hires. So our teachers can go back to the classroom and help, those conversations help shape their instruction. So we're really excited about this idea. First time we've ever done it, and we're looking forward to seeing how it plays out. And the last thing I've got for you is I want to inform you that on November 7th, November is Take Your Legislator to School Month. And so we have invited Senator Peake and Delegate Wendell Walker and Delegate Eric Zier to our schools. And they've accepted the invitation. They'll be with us on November 7th. We're going to start the day off here at 9 o'clock at the Tech Center, do a meet and greet session, and then we're going to go over to Yellow Branch and tour that facility for a little bit. Then we'll go over to Rustburg Middle School, talk about some of the great things that are going on there. And then we'll come back here where the culinary class is going to treat us to lunch and have a time where we can just socialize and talk about some of our legislative priorities. So we're looking forward to that day, and I just want to make you aware.
Will you be sure to share with them why the whole board can't be there
Yes,
with them?
absolutely.
Because I think we would would like to be there, but we understand why there can't be.
Yes.
Ask him again.
That it?
That's all I've got.
Oh, man, I thought you had a lot.
What did you say?
Oh,
He didn't really explain.
now I forgot what I was gonna
I
ask
asked
you.
him to explain why we couldn't.
Well, about it in the meeting.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, yeah. I think the board.
Ms. Parker, you got anything for the good of the board?
Oh, are we, we're at members for, or?
Well, I guess we're down to there, I guess.
All right, cool.
Wait, we got a board, but we
Yeah,
want
we're
to.
good. Good.
If you wanna read the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes, we can do that.
Yeah, right, yeah, I was scrolling a little bit on that too, actually. From one of the students, I have to defer to the students that are out here today, and thank you guys for being here. Brookville seniors are here today with Mr. Scott. And Mr. Scott, maybe you can help me remember if this gentleman is currently a student. Leland? Leland Moore, is he currently a student? Okay, awesome. He asked me to share on November 4th also is the Civil Air Patrol open house at the National Guards Center there beside Leesville Road Elementary School. They're going to have refreshments, and it's from 6:30 to 9 p.m. I'll make sure I send that to Mr. Scott in case you guys don't have a copy of that. So that ought to be fun. A lot going on November 4th and 5th. And I'm welcoming Mr. Scott and all of the students from Brookville High School. I know it's a lot of fun, right? The school board meeting is a lot of fun. But as you can see, we're not scary. So please consider signing up and speaking to us about any issues you have at the future meetings. We really appreciate it. I had the opportunity, I thank Dr. Miller for meeting me to escort me around the Laurel School last week. I have not been there, since I've been on the board, and it was incredible. So talk about just like, with the sped bus drivers, extra thanks for the folks. I mean, clearly a calling to be a teacher at that level of student need. And everyone, I mean, I need to know what they eat for breakfast. I mean, all the teachers and the staff were like Energizer bunnies, smiling, just having a blast. And I learned about, through Dr. Miller and the principal, of what the board has done some incredible things to, appreciate the teachers, have incentive for folks working there at Laurel Center, and getting a bus. So I want to thank you for that. Looks like they're going to have, what I call the party bus, but, have something that doesn't require CDL, so that anybody there on campus can drive when they go off campus. Sounds like they've got some incredible programs for the folks who are higher functioning. It was awesome. I just regret not getting there earlier. Thanks to the ladies, right, and the gentlemen for the donation again. They're just always so awesome. And Sage was incredible. I'll see if we can get her a little note and thank her for being out here today. And I know it's not, for her to come after she's working a full-time job and come to a school board meeting to say hello. But it also is great for folks to know, especially, the students in the classroom, that it's not all in our budget, that those women and gentlemen were here earlier go out in the community and raise more money so that we can afford to pay for more students to go to the tech center and to CBCC. So we really appreciate that. And last thing is, before our next meeting is Election Day, and schools are closed on the 5th. The Department of Elections in Campbell County is still looking for folks to work the elections at all different levels. If anybody would like some more information, you can call down to the registrar's office or see me, and I'd be happy to help plug you in wherever you think you'd like to help out. And that's all I have today.
Dr. Miller?
Yeah, I just want to second what Ms. Parker said about Laurel, and that you gave an inspirational acclamation of what I've been on the board with, and it was a really good tour, and we did really great stuff there, and that calling for teachers to work there is admirable. Also, the Educational Foundation continues to amaze us, and again, none of them are here. I just hope that their thanks to the donors is as exuberant as our thanks are to them for doing the work, because at the end of the day, it's the donors that are providing for our kids. And it is important that our kids that are in that program know that this isn't just school money that's allowing them to do this. So I hope that gets communicated. And yeah, Sage was a wonderful example, and she really did seem to appreciate it. And that's nice. That's good feedback. Some updates from my school. Oh, the Handle with Care. I just love that concept, and I'm really glad that that's been on our radar, your radar, whatever, and that it's being implemented. I think that's a great thing, so appreciate that extra effort. Brookney Elementary, Mr. Harrison.
Why don't you just let him stand up and tell us what's good?
Oh, Mr. Hunt, you know, that's a good idea. I've got a
Because I'm
nice,
going to do that to Mr. Bennett.
I got a nice email from you, but I'd like to hear it personally. Thank you.
Well, I think
Thank you,
Dr.
Chairman.
Miller would tell it much better than I could. Thank you for the honor. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Things are going well down in Brookneal. We had a fundraiser the last couple weeks. We were very fortunate. That community and extended family helped us raise over $20,000, which we are hoping to put towards some playground enhancements. Attendance is still something that we're working towards improving. We're relatively similar to where we were last school year, so constantly fighting that 15% chronic absentee rate, but we're continuing to move the needle through building relationships with our students and families. And all things considered, I would say things are going fairly well. Our students are showing up, our teachers are showing up, and we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome. And then at William Campbell, homecoming festivities, whoops, I just lost it. Okay. I don't know how I did that, but yeah. All right, our homecoming festivities kicked off last week with a pep rally in the gym during the 4th block. The middle school had a tailgate party, which was a success with 60 students participating. Congratulations to Cassie Towns and Amante Bradley, who were crowned homecoming queen and king. And then their homecoming dance was a night under the stars, hosted by the William Campbell PTO, which is relatively new, and it was a huge success with over 130 students. Also, the golf team has made us proud by becoming the Region 1B winners, with special recognition to Braxton Williamson, who was named Region 1B Golfer of the Year. And they start state tournament tomorrow, so go Generals.
Yeah.
And then, think about the update on accreditation. Anxious to follow up on that, see how that goes, some feedback after we get a year under our belt. So yeah, and just keep wanting them to see that curve go up, okay? All right. And then I did get the legislative packet. There is a 161-page email for each of you to read and give me input on. And then last but not least, I want to put a shout out for the Rustburg Lions Club. They're in the middle of their vision testing. These are a bunch of old men who volunteer their time and come. And now I'm one of those old men. And I was at William Campbell. I was at Rustburg Middle. And today I was at Yellow Branch from 9 o'clock till 2 o'clock. And we tested well over 200 kindergartners, first graders, and third graders. And that's a blast, I want to tell you. The nurse did a great job of having it organized. And I've never met a bunch of kinder, nicer drill sergeants than those teachers. I was very impressed with their management of those kids. So it was very rewarding. And but really, the testing we do is way above and beyond what the typical nurse's station holding up the letters. This is a very expensive piece of equipment that we own with the Rustburg Lions Club, and it recognizes which kids need additional testing. So it red flags these kids that they should see an eye doctor. So, and it's all volunteer, so I'm very proud of them. So yeah, thanks.
What percentage of them do you refer to?
You know, well, with the younger kids, I mean, some of the kids already have glasses, right? But we get probably 2 or 3 kids out of each class, and of those, maybe 1 or 2 already has glasses, but at least 1 kid, I would say, in each class gets recognized that they probably should get further testing. So, yeah.
And I appreciate it from my 21-year-old when he was 2 at Yellow Branch. And when we went to the eye doctor, I mean, there's just no way a 2-year-old on the spectrum could possibly know they can't see to tell me they can't see, and he could not see. So it made a huge difference in his education too, so I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, you need to look at it. If you can't see, it's hard to raise those SOL scores. So I think what you're doing is great. Ms. Tanner?
So I just want to shout out the Handle with Care. I'm super excited about seeing that put into place. I think that was one of the hardest things as both a teacher and administrator is you didn't know, and you can't help when you don't know. So I think that's going to have a huge impact on our students and on our teachers, on their ability to address the needs that they need. So I'm really excited to see that we've adopted that program. Excited that we've got middle school swim coming. So y'all know my swim team and my push for all of that as a wonderful activity, but middle school swim has started recruiting. So Brookville High School's got a middle school team. Their B team will start with Brookville Middle, and that's spreading to Rustburg and to Alta Vista as well. So we're super excited about that opportunity for our kids to kind of get involved in a sport that, sometimes that's not what they see as a regular school sport in the middle school level. And the importance of these kids, we'll have kids in there that have never really swam before but are comfortable around water. And so, that's also a life skill that we're able to offer these kids through some great coaches that are willing to add on to the roster without making a huge addition. So I'm excited about that for Brookville. Leesville Road Elementary School's got their Leesville Road's PTO night at Chick-fil-A. So if anybody hits Chick-fil-A on Timberlake Road, my Brookville people that are over there, make sure that you say you are with Leesville Road so they get the credit for PTO tomorrow night. But the Marshall family is wonderful in supporting that every year, so make sure that you shout out for that.
Okay. Ms. Vaughn, you want to go now, or you want to wait till come back to you? Go ahead.
I'll go. I also wanted to shout out the Handle with Care program. I think that's fantastic. I know a lot of the times when students witness a traumatic event, sometimes that manifests as behaviors. And so if teachers have a heads up, they can have that extra grace. That's fantastic. I was able to join the first grade field trip at Leesville Road to Lehman Farms. It was a fantastic trip, and the students had a great time and enjoyed picking out pumpkins. I have a cute little jack-o'-lantern on my front porch as a souvenir. Congratulations to the marching bees. They received a rating of superior and grand champions at the George Wythe Maroon Band Classic. Brookville Homecoming Dance is October 26th at the Bella Vista Hotel. Brookville High School was named Best Public High School by the News Advance Reader's Choice Awards for the 3rd year in a row and 2nd time named Best Overall Public School. Congratulations to all of our staff for making Brookville the best place for students to learn and grow. And October is National Principals Month, so thank you to all of our fantastic principals.
David?
Rustburg High School. So we did recognize the track team Friday night for their state championship the previous year. They got their rings presented to them at halftime at the game. And that was the first state championship since '78. So it's been a while. So great accomplishment by those guys. Saw the old school coaches there. Some when Mr. Bennett and I used to run that used to coach us. So, but that was a great presentation. We had the vocal ensemble concert last Tuesday night. The band is going to perform their fall concert on October 29th at 7. And then we have the fall musical, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, November 21st through the 24th. And thanks again for all the donations, from the Campbell County Educational Foundation and all the other, 15 other donations I think we got. So thanks very much for that. We had the culinary arts program feed us this evening prior to the meeting, so thanks to that program. It was a great meal tonight. Much better than the frozen dinner I would have got at home. And thanks to all the presenters, Dr. Hale, Ms. Robertson, and Dr. Wilson. Thanks for your information tonight. Thanks to the students in the back. I think if we put chairs in the hallway, y'all would have sat in the hallway maybe, but on the back row back there, thanks for you guys coming tonight. And Dr. Stanley, I didn't know anything worth mentioning with the Brookville High School project, everything trucking along, and I'm getting your updates.
Yeah,
via
it's
email,
moving
but,
along. The rain there, slowed us down a little bit with the gym. But it's now we got some dry weather, so things have picked up and moving along.
Okay.
Slow but sure. I mean, I just want to,
Can I hear amen in the back?
You thank the teachers and administrators for their flexibility, and you remind them this is going to be going on till probably the summer of '26. So,
How did the drain system work?
it worked fine. I had no.
It accommodated it all?
Yep. From what I understand, I mean, I was not told that it did not. So yeah, I'm assuming that everything went just fine. So,
Okay.
it's moving along.
Good deal. Thanks.
Gary?
October the 5th, the marching colonels participated in a Lynchburg band competition. They received first in color guard, first in general effects, first in music, first in visual. So they won Class A. I think it's like 20 of them. Dr. Hale and I attended a pep rally sponsored by LU. They brought 60-some players, cheerleaders. And they gave us a grant for $10,000 to the school. And
Wait a minute, you went to a what?
A pep rally
Where at?
at the elementary school.
Okay.
Who gave us, who gave you
Gary's upset he didn't
10,000?
get invited.
Well, I mean, get some more information there. You lost
You should have been. You should have came.
Well, I didn't
Anyway,
know.
Liberty University gave us $10,000.
Okay.
And they awarded Judith Hedgepeth the Extra Yard for Teachers Award. And gave her $1,000 to spend on her classroom. The teachers had a good turnout for I didn't even know they did this. McDonald's sponsored a McTeacher fundraiser. So they got to work, and that was well received. And last, Dr. Hill has told me that the truck or treat has been moved
It'll be at Tree of Life next Saturday.
next Saturday.
So we'll send that.
And if you've never been, it's a great thing to go see.
So the pep rally
Not this
was,
Saturday, but the next one.
The pep rally was to award us the money,
okay, well, that's good. That's great.
but it was a pep rally, believe me.
It was the loudest pep rally.
Oh, yeah. Them kids were nuts.
So it was student athletes and the
Yeah,
cheerleaders
student
from
athletes,
Liberty?
cheerleaders, yeah,
Wow.
From LU.
from LU.
And why'd they pick out to this summer? Was this a grant or
Why not?
something?
So it's the same grant as last year, and so they received it.
They just received it.
Yeah.
But the award for Judith was new.
The what?
The award.
Teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's for her to spend in her classroom.
Well, that's great.
That really is.
But no, they brought a big bus, and I don't know how they got it in and out the parking lot, but they did, so that's all I got, thank you.
That's good, that's great.
Mr. Harrison, give them a call.
I remember the question I was gonna ask you after you presented some stuff, and SROs may be able to, what are the consequences for the people that are making these social threats if they get caught? Or what percentage of them are actually caught and apprehended, and what are the consequences?
Well, we catch an awful lot of them. I would say that in each situation, students are always suspended to Dr. Wilson. Then he'll make a recommendation to the board like we always do for up to an expulsion, potentially. And then in terms of legal charges, it could be a Class 6 felony.
So do we
So
have any
it's
examples?
significant.
Because I mean, it seems like this is getting more and more commonplace, or more and more the norm. And at some point, somebody's got to set an example where you don't want to get caught doing that.
Students are being charged.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to
You
be.
know,
caught doing
Amherst canceled a school board meeting.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't guess they have much choice. But I mean, it's gets, like, that's what I'm saying, it seems to be getting more commonplace everywhere.
I don't think anybody realizes at the time when they decide to do something like that, whether it's using social media or it's written somewhere in the building, that this could change their life. The consequence of what they're doing right there could impact them for a long time, because consequences are severe.
Well,
So are the kids informed of this? I mean, do they know that they're going to juvenile? Not only are they getting
Potentially.
suspended, but they're,
There's a possibility.
yeah.
Yep.
And they know, they are made aware of that.
Every year,
Yeah.
administrators stand in front of their students and talk about the seriousness of it and the potential repercussions for doing it.
And does, the ones that do get charged, is that, to follow up on Barry, do they, the ones that get charged, do they get convicted? Or do they get?
That can vary,
You know,
depends on the case and
Depends on the severity.
circumstance.
Do they return to school after that? After they
It
serve their
depends,
time?
every situation's different, okay? But you will always hear about them, you know, they will all be coming to the school board with either an expulsion or long-term suspension. So our hope is yes, they'll come back to school and graduate and be successful.
Yeah, and I appreciate Dr. Stanley's public service announcement email that he sent out to, you know, for the parents too. I hope they read it. And to the students too, you know, before you press forward, show it to someone.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Scott, welcome to your bunch, and outside, I asked you to designate one student to stand up and ask us a question. Did you find any takers?
It's definitely Bryson Good.
Who?
Why don't you just call someone out, Mr. Scott?
I have a question.
Yeah, come on up.
Stand up,
You have to
stand
come
up.
up.
Can I go up there?
Yeah, come on up.
Now, you're speaking for the whole Brookville High School now.
So tell us your name and where you're from.
My name's Brookville High School. My name's Bryson Good. I go to Brookville High School. I'm a senior. So a few weeks ago at Brookville High School, we had a threat to our school, social media post. I was wondering, I remember about 6 o'clock that afternoon, I saw the post, and I was unaware of who to report it to and where. So do I just call the Campbell County Sheriff's Office, or do I mean, I can't call the school.
I think calling the sheriff's office is a great
Okay.
you know, it's, because if you do it after hours, obviously you may not have anybody at the school, but you can contact a teacher. You've got the ability to do that, and I think calling 911 and reporting it is a great idea.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for asking the
Yeah,
question
good
and
question.
coming up and speaking. It wasn't that bad after all, was it?
So what did you do when you saw that post?
About 20 minutes later, I got the email from, I don't know who it was from, someone in Campbell County.
Right.
Okay.
So other people had seen it and reported it.
Correct.
But kind of like an accident, like I was just telling, so another PSA kind of on the side. One of my sons, who's 19 now, passed someone on the road. Same thing. He's like, I didn't know if I should stop and help. I was afraid if it wasn't a good situation for me, but I was worried about them. What do I do? I mean, you don't think about that as a parent, you know, to talk to your child about that, but same thing. Show it to somebody or call 911. I said, just call 911, say it's not an emergency, you think someone might be in distress at this part of the road, but don't stop yourself if you feel like, you know, trust the little voice in your head. But
Captain Brian, correct me, I mean, if it's after hours and the student finds a post, they should report it.
Yeah, they can do that, because they can either let their parents know, and they can call us, but, yeah, we would prefer that they just let us know and not share it on social media. That just kind of adds to the confusion, and it makes it harder for us to find out where it came from.
yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good
Thank you,
question.
Bryson.
Good question.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Give him a hand. All right. Mr. Bennett, you know you're going to have to come up here and tell us about Concord. You know, even though you texted me a bunch of stuff, we know I can't. just happy to see you.
Chairman Jones, are you going to go through everybody in the audience
Well, I can, I might.
Good afternoon. There's a few things. We just finished our fall fundraiser and it went really well. It's a new school, so everything's new. The attendance has been pretty good for the start of the year. Hopefully it continues. We're starting to get some sickness, some kids going home, so we're a little concerned about that. We also are going to do our Title I event, a glow night next Thursday night. So it's to support our reading and all that, but it's supposed to be fun. So if any of you want to come next Thursday night at 6 to 7, our school ought to be just glowing around. So come to that. And also in the People's Choice for Schools, Concord finished third, which was the only elementary school recognized. So
that's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I did want to say that we also did a fundraiser, not a fundraiser, but collected stuff for Western North Carolina. And we got a couple of truckloads ready to go. So.
That's great.
Oh, great.
That's great. Certainly want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to the Campbell County Education Foundation because they continue to amaze me and I'm hopefully the rest of you all with their success at, generating funds because I was at that graduation when Sage accepted employment for Origin, and it wasn't just Sage, it was, what?
12, wasn't it? 12?
I thought it was more than that, but I mean, and if you all remember.
Graduations.
Do what?
The signings, all of the jobs.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great day. It's a great day, and if you all remember, like at the last meeting, this career tech is where we need to be, looking a little harder than we have in the past, because I think that's the way of the future. But certainly appreciate all the presentations tonight, and thank everybody for the comments. And nobody has anything else. I guess we can adjourn and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Y'all are doing great doubling up.
Gary and I are like
motion
synced
by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Maddox.
No.
Phillips.
Oh, Mr. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Phillips. If no questions, everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, tell your daddy I said hi.
Yeah.